Hi, welcome to Tutors Funny channel. In our last class, we done the role part of the Spring JWT. Today, I'm going to start the user creation part. So first, I'm going to select the entity. I'm going to create the class which is a user. User, right? Now, the user class first to implement the entity annotation, right? After that, we have some property of the user. Right, so user, we need a username and first name, last name and password. Right, so first you have to implement the id, which is a auto increment. So id as a primary key. Second, we have private string, username, that username. Just copy this and paste it here. First name, user first name, that is we are written user first name. We have to copy this, right? So if you are writing this too much time, that's why you have to write it. Private string first name, private string last name, private string password. Right? These are the things you have to write. Right? After that, we have to make the relationship. Right? So relationship, we have to make the relationship. What is the relationship? User and role. Okay. What is the relation? User and roles. So many to many relationship. Okay. One user has many roles. Okay, one user has many roles. Okay, there are more than one admin in the system, more than one user in the system. So many to many relationship. So how to implement the many to many relationship? So you have to write it like this. Okay, so you have to write like this here. I just write it here. You have to write it here. The same thing. You have to write annotation many. The many to many. You have to write fetch. Write fetch. Here you have to write fetch type dot you have to write it here. Comma equal type or. That's how we have to implement the many-to-many relationship. Right. Many-to-many relationship, what you're going to do is, and many-to-many relationship, what you're going to do is, we have to write it as join the table. So join the table, you have to join the table. We are using the user role. You are using the user role. You are join the table. You are using the user role. Right. You have to using the user role. Right. You are using the user role. Right. So here this one, you write it as a set role. Right. Set role. That's why it's okay. Private set role. Right. The role, we have a role. Okay. One here you have make the relationship. The role and user. Okay. This is a role. You have to set of roles. Okay. You have to write set the role. Okay. So many here write the one user has many roles. So we have many to many relationship. So write many roles. Okay, so here we additionally the many-to-many relationship. We have to create the additional join the tables as user roles. Right? It has been created. So role ID. You have to write the role ID. This is a primary key. Join the table. We are using the primary key. That's the thing you have to delete. Right? Okay. After that, what you're going to do is we have to do the another thing is after create the role, we have to create the controller, user controller. Right? So user controller, we have to create the user controller. So I'll be explaining, don't worry these all the things, right? So I'll be explaining, right? So don't worry about these things, right? So I'll be explaining that. So the first one, we have write it here. Select the controller, new control user controller, right? You have to write the user controller. User controller first you have to implement the thing is here. The same the role, two things. REST controller request mapping. Edit those things. You have to make it as user. This is a user service. User service, we haven't created the user service yet. So we'll be created the user service. class user service. So you have to select the service class. You have to write a user service. Right, user service you have created. Right, the user controller. Right, the user control. Right, you have to make as this one. Refactor. I have the small spelling mistake. The U start with the capital letter. So how to rename it? Rename user control. Right here, rename it successfully. Right, perfect. Right, so rest controller. After that, what you're going to say, this one I am going to alt and import the class. Right. Okay. Now what you're going to do is your user, you have to import this one. Right. So I'll be explain. That's why I'll be just copy and paste. I'll be explain. Take too much of time if I return, write in and store you. What I did here is first this one I already explained. So yeah, the same like a user. That's why I just copy and paste it. Okay, the same thing what I copied and pasted the user role. The same thing as a role control. The same thing as a user. You have to send it to the service. So we have to create a new user. So we have to write create register new user. So register new user, user body. You have to write user service. You have to register new user. Okay. So what is the user you are registered? It's coming here, right? So it's putting to here. It's sending to the register new user to the service. So we have to create the method in where user service. This same method, right? Here we have to create the new user. Right? You have to create the new user. What is the user you are creating, right? So how to create the new user? You have to write the same thing. You have to create the new user over here. Right here, what the request is coming, right? So we have to create the new user. So you have to write, copy this, paste it over. Sorry, you have to. We already create the method, right? The same method, right? So here we have to send it a repo. So here at the annotation of the service class as a service. That was service annotation. Here the service will be passing to the repo, which one is a user repo. User repo. User repo. Right? User repo. User repo. Right? So user repo, we have to implement these things. Right? So we have to put here as the repo. Right? So we have implemented the right. You have to implement a class. Extends. Right. Extends. So here this one is a user. User. Right. That's it. The JWT repository also we have to edit the class. Right. So that's the thing you have to write. So what's the problem? Extends. You have to implement the API repository. What's the problem? Sorry, that's not a class, that's an interface. That's why it's a problem. So the repo is not a class. You have to implement the interface. That's why I had a problem with that. You have to make a interface user repo. User repo. Simple, you have to implement like this. You have to extends JPA repository. Right? So you have to add this thing. Same thing then. Same thing, just copy and paste the same role. Here you have to make it as here. This one to the user. That's the thing you have to write. Simple. You have to write what percent here to get this. Right, perfect. That's the thing you have to write. Okay, that's a simple stuff you have to write. Okay, okay, simple. Right, so you have to write it here. Auto add, you have to edit the same thing there. Here the same thing you have just copied. Here also you have to add the auto add. This is the user repo. User repo. That's it. That's the thing you have to write. Okay, that's simple stuff you have to write. Okay, so simple stuff you have to write. So create the user. Right, simple stuff you have to write to create the user. That's why we have to create the user simply, right, like this way. Right. After that, what you're going to do is when the form is initialized, we have to create the user. That thing I am creating the my next video. First, you have to understand the flow. First, what you are do, we have done here. So this video, first you have created the entity class. These are the our columns: username, first name, last name, and password. So you have to make the main-to-many relationship. In order to do the task, you have to implement the private set role. Okay, one role has many users, right? Okay, so we have to make them many to many. So we have to create the relationship as many to many. After that, we have to create the second one is a controller. So controller class, we have first add the annotation. This is the request. So you have to write the auto service. You have to create the service class over here. After that, when the request is coming to the user, where the user typing, it is sending to the user service. The service you have sending user service. You have to create the method register user. So we have to create the repo here. Repo the part where communicate the database and add the record into the way. The simple stuff we have did so far. I hope you guys you understood things well. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.